15 games on Wednesday's MLB slate. Which games are worth a wager? That's what you're here to find out. First pitch on WagerTalk TV. We're going to be talking Phillies, Bravos, A's, Rays, Cleveland taking on the Yankees, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Toronto, and we got some best bets coming in that one, and in the Orioles taking on the Mets. If you hear what we got rocking in the background, you know we got the dog whisperer with us, Bryan, Leonard, the man with the cat and the man with the plan joining us, and Adam Trigger joining us as well. Hop below in the comments, and we'll be answering your questions along the way here. But I laid out the games we're going to talk on, guys, and folks are getting a little hump day treat because, Bry, we're going to kick it off with you and your best bet right out of the gate because we got this one going at 1:10 today. So as we're live here, 11 a.m. Eastern, while you're hanging out, hit that like button and subscribe. We want you to be able to get to these as quickly as you can. So Baltimore and the Mets, we got the rubber match here today. And as I looked at the WagerTalk Live odds screen, I see red pop up and I see Cole Irvin's name pop up. So a bit of an unexpected return here for Cole Irvin, inserted here into the pitching rotation as he's coming back here for the O's. So I'm intrigued by how you're going to handicap this game. What are we looking at for a best bet here, Bryce? Side, total? How are you looking to break down this kind of change here to this pitching rotation?
Yeah, the Orioles starters have really struggled as of late. Even their best starter got pounded the other day, which was good for our clients as we went against them. But yeah, they're really searching right now. The trade they made for the Marlins has not worked out very well, and they're searching for pitching, and that could be the downfall of this team as the season goes on. But today we're looking at the offense, and we're taking a look at both of these clubs. They've raked against Southpaws this season. The Orioles have a 118 WRC plus, the Mets at 119, second only to the LA Dodgers. So two teams who hit lefties very well in this contest. Cole Irvin, as you mentioned, he gets to start for the O's today. He comes in with a 4.85 ERA, 1.40 whip, which isn't very good. His advanced stats, when you take a look at that, are even worse. His expected ERA is 5.77. He does rank in the 91st percentile in walk percentage, so he doesn't walk a lot of batters, but that's really all he does. That's the only category he's better than the league average in. And in fact, his barrel rate is in the 2nd percentile, his whiff rate is in the 3rd percentile, and his K rate is in the 7th percentile. So despite that 6-5 record on the season, he's one of the worst starters in baseball. I think the Mets will have some success against him because they have, as I mentioned, really raked against Southpaws. Sean Manaea, he's been on a pretty solid run. He's looked really good. Ever since he cut his hair, he seems to be pitching much better. In his last 5 starts, he's permitted just 8 earned runs in 28.2 innings. But you got to realize his career ERA is 4.03 and a 1.22 whip. Pretty good, but pretty much league average. His last 2 games, he faced the Mariners and the Marlins, 2 of the worst hitting teams in baseball. It won't be nearly as easy for him here against this Orioles offense. As I mentioned, 118 WRC plus on the season versus lefties. I expect this to be a high-scoring affair. I like Manaea. He's in good form, but a lot of times, as I mentioned before, if you bet on pitchers who are in good or bad form, they tend to regress more to their career average, the season average. So I think Baltimore will be able to get to him. I know the Mets will be able to get to Irvin. So let's play the over in this game. It's about 8.5 right now, minus 105. We'll take that as our best bet on the show today.
Great price and a great best bet right out of the gate. I mean, throw the like button and hit that subscribe button just as a thanks for Bryan Leonard giving you the best bet here to start the show. We like getting them to you early here. Trig, you want to talk A's and Rays here at the top? We have a whole bunch of games to get into here. But, you know, it's funny because as we talk about the A's surging a little bit and maybe sneaking up on some teams, you still sometimes see that they're still the A's, because I just look at the fact that they've allowed just 1 run on 5 hits to start off this 4-game set, yet they're entering today's game with a split series. So if that's not an A's stat, I don't know what is. But we have seen a little bit of a back and forth zigzag going here. You think it swings on back because we're getting some nice plus money here on the A's. Can you make a case for them here?
Yeah, so I just want to touch on one of the things you said. Yeah, like the A's are very much an all or nothing offensive team, and
Hmm.
they're an all or nothing offensive team that's cooled off a little bit of late, which had to be expected a little bit with how hot they were kind of June into July. I mean, their offensive numbers in July were right up there, with, at the top of the majors. So they were always going to come back to earth in that regard a little bit. But I want to point out a couple things I've seen on a daily basis with this A's team the past couple weeks, because I keep looking for spots to jump in and back them. And
Mhm.
I'm never getting the right number because it looks to me like that the books are just as high on this A's team as I am right now. So this series is a perfect example. I mean, you look at where the Rays are in the standings, you look at where the A's are in the standings, yet every game is basically a pick. It's kind of been that way this whole series. And even in this game, where I thought maybe I would get a cheap +1.5 with the A's based on kind of the starting pitching matchup, it looks like it should favor the Rays here. Once again, books are pricing this very competitive. A's are +115, and that +1.5 is -150, which is pretty juiced for a home team. So that was the way I wanted to play it. Of course, that price is not going to allow me to do so, but I still lean to the A's here, and you can take that plus money. Like I said, Dan, I just wish it was a little bit juicier of a plus price, but all five of these games have been low scoring. So in this series, I believe 25 runs in 5 games. That's an average of 5 runs per game. And we talked about the A's kind of cooling off, but the Rays are just a nothing offensive team too. And it's, again, if you've watched this series so far, that's been the case. There hasn't been much offense at all. And I don't think there's going to be much offense again in this game. So you're looking at under, you're looking at +1.5. I think both are probably good bets here. The reason I'm not going to play the A's today is Ryan Pepio is I mean, he's not the guy I want to play against in this Rays staff. 620 opponent OPS this year is very good. He's still, I don't know what to think here. He's still coming off the IL, Dan. Maybe one of my biggest fears. He had a knee infection from a spider bite. About 20 years ago, I had a friend that got bit on the arm by a spider, almost had to have his arm amputated. So he is back from that, though, but he missed about a month and came back last time out, was pretty good. So I think he's probably fine, but just, wanted to point out that he is coming off the IL here. But Mitch Spence on the other side with the A's, I like how the A's pitching sets up in this game in spite of him. Like, Spence is not, really the guy I want to back in the A's rotation, but he prior to his blow up last week against the Mets, he was on a nice run of like 4 or 5 starts. I believe he pitched into the 6th inning and went like 5 1/3 scoreless against the Rays earlier this year. But the thing I love here with the A's is they just called up JT Ginn, who's one of their top prospects. He's one of the guys that came over in the trade for Chris Bassett a couple of years ago, former 2nd-round pick of the Mets. And I have a feeling he's going to make his major league debut today behind Spence, if Spence only goes like 4 or 5 innings. If not, it'll probably be in the A's next game. But the reason that makes the A's appealing is you only have to probably get through the order once or twice with Spence. They're going to bring in Ginn, a guy the Rays have never seen, who's got a really good strikeout to walk ratio and is probably going to come in and just mow down like, 7 or 8 batters if that's what happens, because the Rays can't hit anyway. And then you're looking at Grant Holman, stud, just called him up, 2 scoreless outings since he's been called up. He's been the best reliever at AAA pretty much all season for any team at AAA. And then Mason Miller, the best reliever in the league. Still, in my opinion, I don't think you can find a better one. So in spite of the starter, the pitching really sets up nicely for the A's. And again, I think this team's going to be a serious spoiler, Dan. I might play the A's to have the best record in the league in September at like an obnoxiously big price. I really think that they have that kind of run in them. I think they might finish 3rd in the AL West and jump the Angels and the Rangers down the stretch. A team I'm very high on. Didn't get the right price to play them here, but I still think the A's probably, have a good shot today.
Still maybe worth a little money line sprinkle, says our man Adam Trigger. Check him out, wt.buzz/AT. Bri, I want to swing it back to you and talk this Phils and Bravos game, because yesterday I just looked at that price, injuries mounting for Atlanta. Zach Wheeler on the mound, and I was scratching my head. I was like, only minus 130 for the Phils. And then life happens, and then you see, oh, okay, that's why the price was so short. Now we're seeing him as even shorter favorites. It's Nola who's going to be on the hill here tonight. And after the Braves win, Philly's lead in the NL East just keeps on shrinking. So you think maybe my team can get back to their winning ways? How are you looking to bet game 2 here after a disappointing start to the series for my Phils?
Well, you know how I like to bet. I like to bet against teams that are high and bet on teams that are low and look for the regression.
True.
And that would put us on Philadelphia here, obviously. The Phillies have owned left-handers this season. They've got a 119 WRC plus. Aaron Nola's having another solid season. 3.45 ERA, 1.16 WHIP. His extension's in the 91st percentile, chase rate in the 87th percentile, walk rate in the 78th percentile. And this will be the third time he's faced the Braves. And to be honest, Atlanta's hit him pretty well, scoring 10 runs in 10.1 innings. But if you look back, most of that damage came in the March 30th start. In fact, both of these pitchers pitched in that one. First start of the season or second start of the season. Back then, the Braves were healthy. They had a healthy offensive lineup. Now they're just a shell of themselves, as you mentioned, with Austin Riley, the latest star to be lost for the season. To me, I got to give the Braves all the credit in the world. It's amazing that this team is still in the playoff hunt, considering losing the likes of Albies, Riley, Acuna Jr., and Strider for the season. That's a deep team, and I've been making fun of them because they're pulling these guys off the heap. Laureano, Cleveland didn't want him. They take him. He's been playing well. They just picked up a guy that Detroit just cut. He's playing third base. They just find ways to bring people in, and they perform very well. All the credit in the world to them. Max Fried hasn't been at his best this year because of injuries. He's a guy that's always struggled with that. He could be one of the biggest elite pitchers in baseball if he could just stay healthy. But he still posted solid numbers so far, 3.62 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. But that's not what we've come to expect from this talented southpaw. If you take a look at what he's done at home this year, he's only 2-3, 4.27 ERA, and a whopping 1.53 WHIP. He's only had one quality start in his last 5 outings. And the Phillies, as I mentioned, have scored 8 runs in 6.2 innings against him. A lot of that came in the first start of the season where he only went 2/3 of an inning. But they've hit him well, and they have hit lefties well all season long. And despite the Philadelphia record since the All-Star game, we know it's lost. They have not been nearly as good. But if you take a look, all of the best teams are in that situation. The Yankees, Baltimore, Cleveland, a lot of teams struggling in the second half. They really got out to big starts. I think they've been taking it a little bit easier, and it hasn't been paying off for them as the other teams are catching up to them. I think Philadelphia's clearly the better team between these two, regardless of how the teams have played lately. Philly is a team that I still think is the number 1 or number 2 team to win it all in the National League. The Braves, I'm a little bit tired of the Braves. I'd like to see somebody else pass them up. All the credit to them because of what they've done, but I'd rather see another team get into it and do some damage in the playoffs. So I'll take Philadelphia at this bargain price here.
You don't have to tell me twice that we're looking at the Braves, someone else finally doing it. Richie Lockhart asking about potentially looking towards that total trig. Any thoughts on that? And I also want to get your thoughts. We got a question over on TikTok from MNMS, and shout out to those tuning in, watching us over on TikTok. Your follows have helped get us over that 5,000 mark. So the next mark, we're going to get over 10,000. So if you're checking us out on TikTok, just hit that follow button. Doesn't even take a second. And while you're hanging out, smash that like as well. But MNMS Trig was asking about either of these pitchers props potentially going over. Both of them are sitting at 5.5. A lot cheaper to go with Nola over 5.5 because Max Fried looking at minus 150 if you want to back his over 5.5. So any thoughts on the total or any thoughts on what we might see from these pitchers in this matchup before we swing it to the Yankees game coming up next?
I mean, the only thing I have to add to Brian's breakdown is I saw Fangraphs has the Braves at like 12% chance to win the NL East, and that should be 0. That should actually be 0% chance. There is no chance this Braves team wins anything this year. I'll actually be surprised if they make the playoffs. So I agree with Bryan. I can only play against them. It would have no interest in playing the Braves. As far as the pitching is concerned, I wonder just how much, you go back to like yesterday's game. I think, Urshela had a big at bat. Like they're getting production from Whit Merrifield, Ramon Laureano, like guys like that. That's not going to last. So I would, if I had to play a pitcher to succeed in this matchup, it would be Nola, just based on the fact that this Braves lineup gets weaker by the day. But that's all I got on that one. Phillies and anything, kind of correlated with Nola would be the only things I'd be interested in there.
All right, well, then we'll swing it to this Cleveland and New York Yankees game because it's one that we wanted to chat about here, Cantillo and Cortez, but then we also had subs over on the YouTube Shorts feed saying, I put 15 on the Yankees game over 8.5, Brewers minus 1.5 on the run line, and Phillies money line. So we touched upon the Phillies money line part of it. Subs is wondering about if his parlay can cash in. Any thoughts here for you, Trig, as far as the total is concerned, or you have some vibes on the side? Because I don't know. The Cleveland Guardians might still be walking from yesterday. I think it was like 14 walks that they were able to draw in yesterday's game. So maybe that can translate to some runs, and that can translate to an over here for our man. I love my 3 subs. What are you thinking in this one, Trig?
I want to defer. I want to throw this one to Bryan because he's the Guardians guy. I don't really have an opinion here. Yeah, like
Brian, so anything for you, because I see these two. I see these two teams. You've come on here, and it seems like the Yankees always just want to do the opposite of what you're looking for them to do. We've cashed on them a couple times here, Bri. But if anyone knows a Cleveland Guardians-Yankees matchup, it's going to be you. You have any thoughts for the guys?
Yeah, it was nice to us yesterday. We cashed on Cleveland. It really was one of my favorite games of the year, not just because Cleveland won, but it was just you could watch one game and you can learn all you need to know about these two teams. Cleveland's a team that does the things they need to win. They run the bases well. They bunt players over. I'm not a big fan on bunting, but they did very well. They got like 3 bunt hits yesterday, I believe, because the Yankees couldn't field it. Yankees bad defense, that cost them that game. The Yankees defense is not very good. And the Yankees did what they normally do. They start out the first inning, their 2 best hitters hit home runs, and they still don't win. That's what the concern is for the Yankees going into the playoffs. They've got the hitting. The pitching is something to worry about, and just the way they play for the big innings, which is something, once you get to the playoffs and you're facing the aces of the opposing teams, you don't get those big innings. That's my concern about the Yankees. That said, if I was to play this game, I would play the over. Cleveland's got a 113 WRC plus versus lefties. Yankees don't hit lefties quite as well as they do against righties, but Cantillo's a young guy. He's done okay. He hasn't overly impressed, but Cleveland has to throw him out there because of the situation they have with their starters. And yesterday, the Yankees used every single reliever they had. Cleveland had 2 relievers left, but Class A had to pitch 2 innings. For the first time all season, he had to pitch 2 innings in that game. So he's going to be out. So there's a lot of key relievers that had to throw a lot of innings yesterday. They won't be in the game. If I was to play this game, I would play that over. I think the over's got a pretty nice number. Now it opened 8.5, and I see some 8s right now. You can get over 8 at minus 118 at one place. I think that's a pretty good bet. So that may be making my card for the. I haven't posted anything for clients yet, but that may be making my card the over in that game because of what happened yesterday and the situations with both these guys. And Cortez has not pitched that well either. So yeah, the over would be the way I would look here.
Yeah, and even if you factor in the chance for some positive regression, you look at a team who walked like crazy, 12 hits, 14 walks, and yes, this did end up going 12 innings. But then you also look at a Yankees team who was 1 for 16 with runners in scoring position. So it wasn't like the opportunities weren't there, and the game did go over then. So yeah, I kind of scratching my head at where that under money is coming from in this one, because as you said, and as Tyler pointed out in the chat, Yankees like emptied the clip as far as the bullpen is concerned. So Over 8, that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. Fading the marketplace a little bit, probably one that's going to end up on my card as well. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what you're looking to bet here tonight. And Trig, let's keep it moving here. We have some questions coming in. Some folks want to hear about the Houston Astros here tonight. Any thoughts for you coming up? This one's actually going to 210, so glad we're hitting on this one now. Criswell, Verlander, Red Sox, Astros, 210 start. Had some questions about this one. Any thoughts for you as far as this one's concerned?
Yeah, well, not one I played, but it's the thought that seems to come up basically every time Verlander steps on the mound. And I feel like similar to Kershaw, I feel like you have to pay for the name. And it's like at this point in their respective careers, can he be Verlander like on a given day? Yes, but like I think almost always you're paying too much for him. And so with these two teams, the way the series is played out, this has kind of been the approach I've taken to this entire series was Red Sox have some value here at plus money. And that's the way I would look again. Criswell's been serviceable at times. Like I don't think there's a huge, gap within, with starting pitching here. And I like the Red Sox lineup. So again, not something I played. If Bryan wants to jump on here, he can. But like I thought the Red Sox were a little bit undervalued as a dog coming into this series, and my thoughts are still the same. So it would be Red Sox or pass.
Right, anything for you, Red Sox, Astros? If not, we're going to move to this Brewers and Cardinals game. But you want to give any closing thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm concerned about Verlander. Even in his minor league starts, he did not look good. I'm going to wait on Verlander. I don't want to touch this start because as Trey pointed out, he's obviously got the ability, but he's going up against one of the better hitting offenses here in baseball, and you're having to lay a pretty inflated price, if you ask me, on them. I would prefer to play the over than the side in this game. But yeah, until Verlander comes out, and he's going to be on a limited pitch count again. So I don't want to bet into him. I'd rather sit back and watch that one. This is a game that I'm hoping to learn something from.
All right, well, we'll swing it then here to the Brewers and Cardinals game because I only have to lay a customary minus 110 to watch the Brewers just completely run the Cards here, Bri. What is it? 7 of the 8 meetings have gone the way of the Milwaukee Brewers. Happens again on Tuesday, albeit it was just a bit of a sweaty one, but any reason why we just don't keep cashing in on this train that the Brewers seem to have the Cards number, or would you maybe look the other way? How do you break this one down?
Well, the Brewers were good to us yesterday. That was our 5% play, and it was looking really good going into the last inning. But they were able to survive it. They've got their closer back, and they did what they had to do, and Milwaukee gets that victory. I've never been much of a Kyle Gibson fan. He's an innings eater, gives up a lot of base runners. The only reason he's in the league is because he goes deep into the games, and that's one of the few guys that does. Myers has looked really good so far this year for Milwaukee. And, the more I watch this Milwaukee team play, the more I like them. Very good defensive team. They take bases. They can run on you. Just a very good team overall. And St. Louis has been a disappointment. Their starting pitching has not been nearly what they expected. And I don't even know what you expected coming into the season because they signed a bunch of veterans. So they've been a little bit disappointing. And obviously that offense and certain players in that offense, Goldschmidt being one, that has never gotten it together. So if I'm going to play this one, I'm playing Milwaukee. They're just a better team, and you're getting them in basically a pick-em situation.
What about you, Trey? In agreement? Because I know you always like zigging when the teams are zagging. Can you make a case here for the Cardinals? Because, again, it's like, you talk about riding streaks in baseball. This has just been utter dominance on the side of the Brewers. So would this one be a pass for you? Or are you taking that bait like I kind of want to and just go back to the well here with the Brewers?
Yeah, I would come back with the Brewers. I just wanted to point out, I read the comments sometimes in the chat, and someone said, we don't want to hear Trig ramble on about these AAA guys, something that's going to happen 5 weeks from now, so on and so forth. But back in April and May, if you listened to me gushing about Tobias Myers, you probably cashed a whole bunch of tickets by this time because he's been awesome. And I said on this show back in April when he got called up, and then again when he got called up the second time, that he was someone that I wanted to play on a whole bunch in AAA this year. And they kind of, the Brewers had so many injury issues. They moved him up. And just look at what he's done this season. 2.81 ERA, 1.11 whip, both kind of elite metrics for a starting pitcher. And you should be playing, if you followed that and you watch the show and you followed that, you should be playing with house money when it comes to the Brewers and Myers at this point, because he's been fantastic. No matter how you've been betting him, whether you bet his props, bet the Brewers when he pitches, all have been profitable. I wouldn't go against that. I haven't liked Kyle Gibson in years, so Brewers is the only way I could go here.
Best bets coming up. We had Bryan Leonard drop his right at the top. So in case you're just tuning in now, he was looking at Baltimore and the New York Mets over the 8.5. That was the best bet right at the top of the show for our man Bryan Leonard. Trig's going to have a best bet coming up in Cincinnati taking on Toronto. Let's hit one more of these early games before we hear Trig's best bet, though. And Bryan, I'll throw it to you. Pirates and Rangers. Have any thoughts in this one? Because the main thought for me is it always cracks me up when you see starting pitchers that you just know we have no other options, because Haney, it's not like he's put up terrible numbers, but just as far as wins and losses are concerned, this is a guy that whenever he's on the mound, it's kind of like, well, Texas probably going to be losing this one, going to Globe Life Field. Bryan, before you break this one down, though, tell folks what you have over at WagerTalk.com.
At the moment, I don't have anything, but I have been on a terrific run, 12-6 on plus money underdogs just the last week, plus 202 on one, plus 186 on another. This is, I applaud everybody for coming in and watching the baseball show right now, with everybody all concerned about football, because Trig knows this as well as I do. This is the best time of the year to bet baseball. Everybody worries about football. Nobody's paying attention to baseball, and that includes the lines makers. And we're finding tons of bargains, especially on underdogs at this time of year. And I agree with his thoughts on the Oakland A's. In fact, their shortstop that it came up and had one at bat, got a hit, and got hurt. I've watched him play the last 2 nights here in Vegas. He's ready to come back. So they're getting more reinforcements. So I'm a full buyer on the Oakland A's right now. And a lot of these younger teams that don't have a lot of talent, they're getting hungry players coming up to play for them. Your Torontos, your Torontos and Tampa Bays and some others. Those are teams that we can make some money on the rest of the year. This is the best time to play baseball. Even though I currently don't have anything up, I've already got 3 games circled. I'll be adding those in the next hour for you.
Yeah. Bryan, I mean, what I'm so excited for is Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening baseball games. I mean, that's where you really see the lines aren't moving like crazy. Everybody's getting locked in on the double slates. So, yeah, I'm with you. It ends up being quiet time a little bit in the risk room as far as baseball is concerned. And if you've been capping all year long, and we're going to keep doing our show here until up to the playoffs. So hang out with us, cash and tickets, while everyone else is looking at football on the gridiron. We're going to be here on the diamond putting the work in each and every day. So make sure you are subscribed, and that little bell will notify you when we go live here, because 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, we're going to be here putting in the work for you day after day. So we appreciate it. And if you're watching us on social, hit that follow button as well. It doesn't even take a second. Bryan, I love that we got the breakdown of what folks will find, and this is a great time to hop on. How about this Pirates and Rangers game, though? Andrew Haney, as I kind of mentioned, you think he can maybe pick up a rare win here in this series finale, or is it just Pirates are pass for you in this one?
Well, Andrew Haney is lucky he's a left-hander. That, to me, is probably the reason why he's still in this league after 11 years. He's got a career 4.45 ERA, 1.26 whip. Now, he does have a nice chase rate, and he doesn't walk many batters, but his ground ball rate is only 20 or 12%, which means a lot of fly balls when he's on the mound. And he's not overly good with his fastball. His fastball velocity is only in the 15th percentile. average exit velocity in the 24th percentile. So he gets hit. He gets hit pretty hard. Pittsburgh has struggled a little bit as of late, but Herman is a guy that he's spent so much time with Colorado. It's hard to really know if he's good or not because, yeah, he pitched well in Colorado, and there's been a few. Freeman's done that this year for Colorado. He's done it in his career. But now that he's out of there, we get to see if he's a really good pitcher or not. Unfortunately, he's been hurt so much of this year that we haven't got a chance to see him play. But if I was to choose between these two pitchers, I would take Herman over Heaney. And we've already seen Texas is a team that got hot in the playoffs last year. They almost didn't even make the playoffs, but they got hot in the playoffs and had a terrific season because of that. But they've underperformed all year long. They're getting some of their guys back now, some of their starters back, but they have not pitched well because they've been gone for so long. So at this point, I think in their minds, they're out of the playoffs. Pittsburgh's already decided, yes, they're out of the playoffs, but they're young. So the future for Pittsburgh is brighter than Texas. If I'm going to play that, I play the underdog Pirates here.
I like it. Bryan Leonard, WT.buzz/BL. And give him a shout out over on Twitter at @BLeonardSports. We love hearing from you guys, and keep the comments coming below. Trig, speaking of comments, there has been a lot of pro Trig comments rolling in here today on YouTube as well. One of which was right at the top when Tyler was saying, Trig, you should actually be the Twins manager because last night's game was absolutely brutal, but you know more about the bullpen than their actual manager, is what Tyler said. So right out of the gate, already had your back. I mean, I was watching, I was sweating with you. I know it's brutal coming on here after that 5% loss, but you're looking for a bounce back. So tell folks about what you have over at WagerTalk.com, and your best bet kind of factors in with that little bounce back role that you might be playing as the Reds are taking on the Blue Jays. And even after getting throttled last night, you think might be a Cincinnati spot here in best bets. So what do you got rocking, and how are we betting this game?
Yeah, so I have a conscience, so I have nothing up for sale after losing the $2 play on the Twins in that fashion for all the people that bought yesterday. So I'm just giving out my baseball play for free. I will have an NFL preseason play. I'm waiting for the coaches in a couple of different games to tell me what they're going to do. As you know, that's kind of how preseason goes. But I do have a baseball play already locked in. I'm giving it to you here on the show, and that's the Cincinnati Reds. So, you know, I guess get ready for, one of these teams that finds ways to lose games. That's what the Reds did for me this weekend. I kind of took a step back and said, all right, I want to find a spot to play them against the Blue Jays. It's probably going to be Wednesday. I did give the Reds as a best bet on first pitch on the show on Monday as a plus money underdog that cashed. They lost last night, so it all kind of worked out for me to come play them today. Reason I like them so much today, I'm high on Nick Martinez. I've talked about this a couple of times this year. I've really been talking about this since he returned from Japan. I thought he had, the last couple seasons, he's looked like a different pitcher. And as someone that watches a lot of Korean baseball and sees these guys go over and come back, I really think the main area guys improve when they come back from the Asian countries is command and control. It's just like it's more stressed over there than it is over here. So some of these guys that don't have the elite stuff that go over and come back, like your Chris Flexens, Eric Fed, the list goes on. They all tend to come back with better command. And it's kind of why I had Nick Martinez circled for a breakout. I like the stuff he had done the past couple of years. And, he didn't really start off that way this year. Actually, it was pretty disappointing to me the way he started. But lately, he's looking like the guy that I thought he could be this year. Last month, 1.19 ERA. That's over 30 innings, just 4 runs conceded in that time. And the reason he's doing it, he's gone to completely trusting his fastball. But it's got good movement, and he locates it. And then again, it just goes back to, like, this is what happens with these guys. Ben Lively's another one. Comes over, had an ERA over 5 in his big league career, goes to Korea for a couple of years, comes back, all of a sudden hits all his spots, and he's a pretty serviceable major league pitcher. So I kind of see the same thing here with Martinez. It's why I want to keep playing on him. Another reason I like him in this spot, his home road splits actually much better on the road. That makes sense. Great American Small Park, Dan. It's not an easy place to pitch. Balls fly out of that place. not so much in Toronto. And Martinez's road ERA this year, 1.71. So he's been better on the road. I also want to play against Yariel Rodriguez here. He's really kind of struggled with command. He's had a weird season where he didn't pitch last year. He was trying to establish citizenship so he could come play in the U.S. Then he gets hurt early this year. So, he's kind of had to stop and start his season a couple of times. It's turned into 27 walks in 55 innings. And the last time out, I actually played against him and cashed on Friday with the Cubs, kind of overcompensated, just throwing it right down the middle. Cubs had 3 home runs in that game. And he's just not, he's just not fully on right now. Now, when he is on, his stuff can be very good. But the other thing that I'm not concerned with that here is the fact that the Blue Jays have taken a hard line on 80 to 85 pitches for Rodriguez. They're completely out of it. He's had arm issues. They just aren't going to mess around with that. So you're never going to see him go deep at this point. And that means you get your hacks at a Blue Jays bullpen that is as bad as it gets. You look at the underlying metrics, they're all at the very bottom of MLB. In many cases, they're worse than the Rockies, who have a horrific bullpen and play at altitude. So the Reds have been a top 10 bullpen all year. And, even though the last week or so, the Jays bullpen has actually been okay, that's still a massive advantage later in this game. Getting those high leverage Reds relief arms that didn't really work yesterday against the Blue Jays, just abomination of a bullpen. So -105 is what I played Reds at. I think they take this series. It's kind of do or die for them if they're going to stay in this race. And I like the Reds to get it done in Toronto tonight.
Yeah, and it looks like we're seeing there are some 106s left out there, but we're also seeing. Yeah, it looks like it's only going north. So this seems like a run don't walk kind of situation if you want to grab a better price if possible. So we're looking at the Reds money line on the Blue Jays. That's the best bet for our man Trig, and Tyler's got your back. They're going to get back the coin tonight. He says Red's going to get us the coin back, Trig. So Tyler, who might be Adam Trigger's burner account. I don't know. I'm not positive, but
he's not. He's been loving wrong. On you. That is some of the worst game management and execution I've seen all season was from the Twins yesterday. It was so hard to watch. They ran themselves into about 4 outs on the bases, brought in Okert. It was just so bad.
As I was just sitting there watching it unfold, I was just like, are they really going to do my man Trig like this? So I was standing there with my mouth agape as well. Appreciate you, Russ. Great show as always. Well, it's a great show partially because of what you guys do in the comments. So shout out to the chat, Seth S., Roger Long, Russell Deck. We got Fortnite over on YouTube Shorts, Scott Chappie, the Scratch Master, looking for some locks as well. We appreciate all of you. On your way out, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe. The little bell gets you notified when we go live, like when Wager Talk today comes your way in just about 20 minutes. Marco D'Angelo, the triumphant return of Art DeCesar from the Westgate, and Andrew McInnes talking some CFL, some MLB action. So get odds makers' perspective and get the experts' opinions as well. Also, we're going to be recording another edition of Bet On It today. So, folks, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. Over on TikTok, keep those follows coming. 10,000, we're coming for you next. And if you're watching us on X and Instagram, hit that follow button as well. That does it for a Hump Day edition. We'll be back locked and loaded Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. Till then, best of luck, folks, and we'll see you next time right here on First Pitch.